welcome to the Polk Pioneer Oral History Program, a collaboration between the Polk County Historical Association's Heritage Partners and Polk Government TV. I'm Myrtis Young, Polk County History Center Historic Preservation Manager and a member of the Polk County Historical Association. Thank you for joining us today as I have the pleasure of interviewing Sue Bowen Clements, who has been nominated for Polk Pioneer recognition by the Davenport Historical Society. Sue, congratulations and thank you for helping to preserve and promote local history through your memories of a lifetime spent in Davenport. Let's begin your story with your birth and childhood memories as you take us on a journey of the Bowen, Cumbie, and Clements families.
Thank you, Myrtis, for having me and for letting me tell my story. I'd like to start off with the fact that the Bowen family was moved into Davenport years and years ago. My great-grandparents were James Elias Bowen and Emmeline Williams Bowen. And they moved to Davenport years ago. I don't have an exact time for them, but he was postmaster there for some years too. And then my grandfather is their son, Silas Bowen, and his wife was Marybelle Brunson Bowen. And they moved to, they lived there in Davenport. My grandmother Brunson was born of course, in Kissimmee. And so then I also, on the Cumbie side, my mom's side of the family, Daniel Boone Cumbie was her dad. He was born and raised here in Lakeland. And Donnie Ellerby Cumbie was my grandmother Cumbie, and she was also raised here in Lakeland. So I have real combination of family right in Polk County from the time I was born. My dad had several brothers and sisters. It was a mixed family because Grandpa Bowen's mother died and he had children. My grandmother Bowen, she was an Ivy from her first marriage, and she had 3 daughters, and then they married and had 5 children, which my dad was one of those. So it all started there and just expanded to my family. My dad is Jeannie Bowen, and my mom is Elna Cumbie Bowen. And Dad worked as the ranch foreman for Crescent Valley Ranch with Mr. P.E. Williams, and that's where I grew up. That's where the house we lived in when I was born. I was born in 1943, and the first thing that, looking at pictures, the first thing I remember of seeing pictures of me little was on the horse with my dad. I was just a little thing, and that was the first thing they did. I have a picture of my dad also holding me there in the barn, but I remember the two of them, and Dad, like I say, Dad was the ranch foreman, so I grew up there. And then I had a brother, Danny. I'm 5 years older than Danny, and of course, Danny and I both rode horses and grew up out there.
So it's really interesting. So your father worked on a very significant ranch for a very significant cattleman. So I'm assuming you have an interesting childhood of how you got to school, where you went to school. Tell us a little bit about that growing up out there over in Davenport near a ranch.
All right. Well, yes. Whenever we, of course, back then, you had the school buses that ran, but they didn't come house to house or corner to corner because we lived out in the country. So we had to either walk to the school, to the end of the road, which is 547 was the road, the highway that was there, the paved road. And I had 2 cousins that lived with my grandmother during the winter time. And so either their mom or my mom would take us to the end of the road to catch the bus in the mornings because both of them worked. And so, you know, they would take us out. But in the afternoon, when they dropped us off at the bus, we had to walk home.
Oh.
We had to walk down this clay road to get back to our houses. And the fun part was keeping up with a little brother. You know, the girls, there were the two girls and I and Danny. And so we always had a good time walking home, except that it would have been nice if we didn't have to walk, you know, or have to go that far. But yes, it was very interesting growing up there on the ranch. Yeah, like I say, we both grew up there, and sort of kind of Danny, as he got older, worked on the ranch. I never really rode and worked the cattle, but now he did, and my mom and dad, of course, did. During the war, my dad was called up during World War II, mm-hmm. and my mom actually at that point helped Mr. Williams with some of the cattle deals. When they needed her to ride and go and herd or to help work with the cattle when they brought them in to brand them or whatever, she actually worked with them while he was in the service until he came back home.
She stood in your father's place and herded cows. That's amazing.
Yes, definitely, definitely. But some of my fondest memories as a child are of my grandmother Bowen's home. She lived only right on down the road from us, about maybe a half a mile mm-hmm. down this dirt road. And the dirt road ended at her home, and then I had one great aunt that lived at the very end of the dirt road. So we were on a dead end road. But the point I wanted to make was my grandmother's house, my dad had a large family, and so at least 2 or 3 times a year, especially Christmas and Easter and that thing, we had all the family come out there. And it was great because Grandma's house was an old-fashioned house, had the hallway that went all the way down through mm-hmm. it. The bedrooms in the living room were at the front, and the kitchen was off. It was at the end of the hallway, but it was a separate building at the end of the hallway. That way, in that time, you didn't have fire hoses and you didn't have firemen and all that. If the kitchen caught on fire, then you had a chance to put it out without the whole house burning down. So it was quite a unique house mm-hmm. That was there. They had built it. That's where my dad was raised. And so we would have these get-togethers, and so outside, the men would set up all these tables with sawhorses and the plywood or something, and Grandma and the girls would put tablecloths over it, and everybody brought dishes. So we had all this get-together with all my cousins and everything. And of that, I have a very interesting part of my family there. I have 4 girl cousins that are exactly the same age as I am.
Oh, fun.
We were all born in 1943. And so at Christmas, we were all together. And of course, you got to remember, we went to school all to Davenport except one. Martha's mom and her dad had moved to Haines City. So she grew up in Haines City going to school. But of course, at all the family functions, you know, she was there. But there was the 4 of us, Glenda and Ann and Martha and myself. And every Christmas, we always brought something out, you know, that we had gotten for Christmas and whatever. But it was just always a big family gathering. Mm-hmm. Fun, lots of time. Mm-hmm. Now, my grandmother Cumbie and grandfather Cumbie lived about 2 miles from me. So I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
I had both sets of my grandparents right there close to me. They were both there, except that when I was 4 years old, my grandfather Cumbie was killed in a train accident. He was hauling citrus pulp and stuff to the cattle on the ranch, and it was foggy that morning, and he went to cross over the railroad track to go to Holly Hill to pick up citrus pulp. And at that time there wasn't all the flashing lights and all that, and he just pulled out in front of the train. So that was very sad. So I was only 4. I was his only grandchild that he ever saw.
Wow.
I have 4 cousins on my mother's side that are my age, and they're all younger than I am. I was the oldest grandchild. So I grew up, but my Granny Cumbie stayed there. She was born here in Lakeland, and my great-grandma Cumbie lived right here in Lakeland. Her house was there until a couple of years ago, and I think they finally destroyed it. But we would come over. Granny Cumbie would bring us over and let us visit with my great-grandma, because Mother and Daddy were both working, and then sometimes on the weekend it was, you know. So I was very fortunate to be raised with all my family and all my cousins. And as I grew up, Davenport had the swimming pool.
That's right.
Yeah.
Historic swimming pool.
Right, the historic swimming pool. And I was on the swim team, and my brother was also, whenever he got old enough, because I'm 5 years older than him. And so we had a great time there. It was a big deal, and you got to remember, they had to bring me, Mother had to bring me in for practice and whatever after school. So living in the country was wonderful, but I wasn't able to contribute in, you know, or I say not contribute, maybe participate in all the after-school activities and things like that. We did, but one of the fortunate things for me, ended up very fortunately, our piano teacher in town lived right across the street from the school.
Okay.
So I was allowed, and so were some of the other students, to take a 30-minute break during one time a week to go and take piano lessons. So I was very fortunate of that, which turned into, I actually ended up for a while playing the piano at the Baptist church, and then they bought an organ, and when the organist left, I played there and played the organ there, and that was, I was probably 20, 25, 26. Well, my husband started driving long distance, and so the kids and I didn't go as much, and Pete and Harriet were going to the Methodist church, and their organist left, and she moved away, and they called me and asked me if I would, and at that point I wasn't playing at the Baptist church, if I would come and play at the Methodist church, and that was probably about I would guess in the 70s. And I am still the organist at the New Horizon Church at Davenport, Haines City, Davenport Methodist Church there.
Sue, that is a fabulous story. A childhood event, learning to play the piano with a teacher that lived across the street from the school.
Yeah. And
you enjoyed it. She developed that talent, and you are still today the organist.
Yes.
Organist at the church. That is just an amazing,
amazing
achievement.
Yes, and I've been very fortunate. Like I said, it was very fortunate because there was really no other way with Mom and Dad working that I would have been able to. So you know, to take piano lessons. My brother did also.
Oh, good.
And but back to when we were younger. Well, I went to school to Davenport through the 9th grade, and I then, in the process of school and church, I knew my husband at one point, Larry Clements.
Larry. Mm-hmm.
And I knew who he was, and he's 2 years older than I am. And his family moved there from Alabama when he was 10. And so anyway, whenever I was in the 9th, 10th grade, I can't remember exactly, my dad was the coach for the Little League. And he was coaching the Little League team, and my cousin Ann and I went to the team. Well, Larry's best friend, Jerry Jones, he and Jerry decided they'd come watch actually I think come look at everybody, the Little League game, because neither one of them had family that were there. You know how that is. But anyway, he and Larry sat with us, and Larry sat next to me, and I'm like, you know, of course he's a nice, handsome young man, 2 years older than me, you know. And so anyway, it was like, okay, and then we were back in school together, and then at church, and then he got to where he would come and sit with me at church. And so, and then when we went to Haines City to high school, we had to ride the bus, of course, to the high school and sit together on the bus. And then in 1959, we were married. And I have to tell you the story of my wedding.
I can't wait to hear the story. I've seen a photo. It's very interesting, so please share with us that wedding day.
Well, the wedding day, everything was going great. I had this beautiful Southern Belle wedding dress, and it had the hoop skirt under it, and we were getting married at the Davenport Baptist Church. That's where we both belonged at that time. And so everything was all set, all done. The wedding went off beautifully. You know, my dad walked me down the aisle, and there's Larry and the girls, and oh, the wedding was just wonderful.
Beautiful.
And then as the minister had us turn around and then introduced us as Mr. and Mrs. Larry Clements. And I put my arm through his, and my bridesmaid, maid of honor, handed me my bouquet.
Perfect.
Oh, beautiful picture, you know. So here we go. You know how you're going to go out the aisle and meet, you know, and you're ready to get out of there. So I took one step, and I went, oh, and I tripped. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got one handful of flowers, and I've got the other with him. So I stood back up, and Larry stood up, and I went and took another step. And when I tripped that time and I went to stand back up, unbeknownst to me or anybody else, my husband just reached under me, grabbed me up in his arms, and carried me out of the church. I'm sure my face was red as a beet. I just knew that hoop skirt was going to fly up over my head, you know. So that's the story of my marriage. It started off like that and ended up 66 years. Beautiful. We were married 66 years, yes.
And I'm so delighted that you have a picture of that procession out of the church scooped up in Larry's arms. That is just wonderful. It's a great story.
I was so excited that the photographer had gotten it. I mean, it was like, you know, just unreal, because it's a very good memory. And we actually rented a little house there in Davenport after we got married. He was working with his dad in construction. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, he worked construction most of his life. And we were great. We had the first child was a little boy, and his name was Billy. It's actually Billy Don Clements. And he was a good kid, you know. Then as time went by, we had two more. I have a daughter, Patty Ann, and I have a younger son, Randy Allen. And they all went to school there, all graduated through high school.
Sue, it's just beautiful to hear about your wedding and about the birth of the children, and they've come along. Tell us a little bit about 3 children. You're going to have a middle child, and you've got, you know, boys and girls. What was that like, the household with the Clements children?
It was a full household when they were all 3 there. Actually, Billy was very involved with his grandparents, with the ranch. He raised steers for FFA.
Sure.
Also, he won the grand champion at the with his steer at one year. I don't remember the year, at the FFA Polk County Youth Fair.
Wow.
So we were involved with Polk County Youth Fair. He also showed rabbits. He was a very animal. He liked all the animals. Like I say, we had rabbits and we had cows, and then he started showing his horses.
Oh, wow.
And his grandparents bought him a quarter horse so that he could actually compete in some of the contests and things around. We used to haul him off. I used to, whenever his grandfather or his dad wasn't available to drive the pickup and this horse trailer, and now I'm talking a big horse trailer.
Yeah.
Because his grandfather, whenever he moved his horses, he had 4 or 6
Oh,
or
wow.
whatever that he moved. One of the stories, thinking back about Dad moving horses, was that I missed telling you when we were growing up. My grandfather Bowen owned property on Lake Hatchney.
Okay.
And he had cattle and things down there, and his brother-in-law, Brunson, Claude Brunson, run that area for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Claude Brunson and my grandmother Bowen were brother and sister. Okay?
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Okay, so he had the 2 girls,
Mm-hmm.
my 2 cousins, Betty and Faye Brunson,
Mm-hmm.
that lived with my grandmother during the winter time
Oh.
because their mom worked at the Holly Hill canning plant there in
Sure.
Davenport.
Yeah.
So they stayed there and went to school with me. They're the ones I was talking about walking down the clay road. And so they were there, and then on the weekends, about every 3 or 4 weekends, I'd get to go home with them.
Oh, fun.
And they are out, you know, it's out in the boonies. There's nothing out there but their house. Well, to give you an idea, where they lived, the bus would not come and pick them up so they could go to Lake Hamilton or Dundee to school.
Wow.
So then, of course, their mom had started working, and so they stayed with them. That's the reason they stayed there.
Okay.
Is because there was no transportation to get them to school.
Wow.
So anyway, but we would go down there, and it was just hilariously fun because for a long time they did not have electricity.
Oh, my.
There was no electricity there. It was kerosene lamps.
Oh, wow.
And it was at night, it was dark.
Oh, yeah.
There was no running water in the house.
Sue.
They had an outhouse. So if you had to go to the bathroom at night, I would go, Faye, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm scared to go by myself. So she'd get up and go with me, and we'd go out to the outhouse, take the flashlight, go out to the outhouse, and come back in. And one of my fondest memories of that is my Aunt Eva made taffy.
Ooh.
She made molasses taffy, always when the kids were there. And sometimes they'd be all 4 of us girls. Sometimes Danny would go with us. And of course I had other cousins and stuff too. And she would make taffy, and we would sit on the front porch and pull taffy.
Oh, how fun.
Loved to pull it. I didn't really care to eat it, but you know, but it's a candy, and it's a hard candy that you'd suck on when the time you got it pulled. And there was a perpetual well there that water ran into a trough for the cattle, and we would love to play in that water. And then the lake was also there, so we did get to go swimming in the lake and do things down there. So that was quite an adventure when we were younger.
Sure.
There, I enjoyed that. But anyway, back to, you know, my dad and the cattle trailers and all. Whenever they couldn't take Billy, then it was left up to me to drive that truck and trailer and the horse and take him to Kissimmee or Bartow or to wherever they were having a competition. That was always one of those things you sort of held your breath till you could do, because I'm not really a great master of backing trailers and doing this. The guys always seem to be able to do it better, but I managed. I'd get there early so I could pull it in and pull it around. I didn't have to back into anything. As long as I'm going forward, I'm okay. But anyway, that was Billy. He went on to school. He went to Polk and then went on to Gainesville and got his master's there, or his doctorate. He got his doctorate there. He went on out to Texas Tech and got his master's out there. He thought he wanted to go into animal husbandry or veterinarian or whatever, but he changed his mind. While he was out in Texas, he got connected with some of the pharmaceuticals, working with the vets. All his life, his working life, he worked for pharmaceutical companies. And so we were very proud of him, very proud of him. He lives in North Carolina now, and he has no children. Well, Patty was 5 years younger, so Billy was pretty much, by the time she got ready to go to college, he was pretty much getting set. So she went to Polk, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. Before she went to Polk, she was a dancer. We had a lady that I took her to start with to Kissimmee, because there was no dance studio right in Davenport, Haines City. And so she danced there. And then when she was in high school, she started a little dance studio herself there in Davenport for about three or 4 years that she taught dance there while she was going to school. And so when she went to Polk, she got into their physical therapy part of it, physical science. And she graduated from Polk, and then she went to Tampa to the University of South Florida. And at that time, when she had, because Randy was only 2 years younger, by the time she got through Polk, he was ready to go on to college too. So Randy would drive, and Patty would ride with him, and Randy's girlfriend, Tammy Moody, she's from Dundee, and he would drive all three of them over to the University of South Florida, and they all three graduated from over there. Patty had her degree in physical science. Tammy was a teacher, and Randy was working with I guess just general science degree, and he went on to Gainesville to get his master's and his doctorate. Patty got married, and so then after she was married, she ended up going to Gainesville and living up there with her and her husband and her children, and got her doctorate degree. And she now teaches as a professor at Anderson University in South Carolina. Her degree is so that when they leave her class, and from there, from what she's teaching them, they can go into physical therapy, they can go into doctorate school, medical school, nursing school, but the nursing school usually has their own, but she does a lot of the background teaching basics before they enter there. Now Randy went on to, he graduated with his doctorate from Gainesville, took his family and moved to Iowa, and he worked for out there for a company in Des Moines, Iowa, out there, and he passed away in October of this is 2 years ago. He passed away 2 years ago, this past October. And so, but his wife and children still lived there. So that was basically their growing up years. Then when Patty got married, like I say, Billy he doesn't have any children. He never married. Patty has 3. The oldest one's Lance, Savannah, and Bo. While her children were little, very tiny, I worked for the bank. Randy was in high school, Patty was already married, and so my sister-in-law, Danny's wife, Elizabeth Jennings Bowen, she worked for State Bank, and then it became First Bankers, I think it was. But anyway, they opened the Davenport branch, and she worked there. And she called me one day, and she said, Sue, she said, we need somebody to work on Mondays and Fridays. And I thought, well, I've never worked, you know. I mean, I got high school, but I haven't any experience. And she said, well, we just need somebody, a teller, from Monday and Friday, our busy days. I said, well, I talked to Larry. Yeah, well, if you want to, well, yeah, here I am home all day now, you know. And so I said, yes, I would. Well, that turned into be a 20-year career of banking. Oh, how wonderful. So then when Patty was still going to, she went to work at Polk Community for a while, and I had just put in 20 years, and her little ones were just starting school, getting into school and all, and so finding a babysitter for them. So Grandma retired at 20 years from the bank and took over being babysitter.
A perfect retirement career.
So I took them to school in the mornings and picked them up in the afternoon and kept them till Mom got off work. And in the meantime, she and her husband had divorced. So it was she and the children. Well, she later remarried and moved to Gainesville because she had her master's, but she didn't have her doctorate at the time. So she got her doctorate there, and that's how she is a doctor at Anderson University.
Okay.
So
great journey.
Great journey. And so that's the story of the 3 of our children. Randy and Tammy got married. Tammy taught school, still is teaching school.
Good.
And he has 2 boys, Kyle and Austin. And they live in Iowa. We get to see them a couple of times a year. Her parents lived here, so in the summer they would come back. But that's basically, you know, they are still out there, and we would go out to see them a couple of times a year and come back to see them here. Then, and all of this, after, you know, all of this part of life has been through, Larry and I celebrated 50 years of marriage.
Beautiful.
We were married 50 years. Actually, when he passed away in November of this past year in 25, if it was 66 years. It would have been 67 in January. So
Oh, so oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful family, children,
yeah.
and I understand from our photos that we've collected, there's a great-grandchild.
Yes.
Where did this beautiful child come from?
This is Patty's grandson, her daughter, Savannah, and his name is Waylon.
Waylon.
And he will be 2 years old in May. And just a joy we have enjoyed. Of course, fortunately, Larry was still alive at the time. So
great, beautiful.
It's a blessing. And she lives in Gainesville, and her brother Bo actually lives in Gainesville also. And Patty's other child, Lance, he and his wife live in at Central South Carolina, where Patty lives, and they've been married now 3 or 4 years. So, and both of Randy's, neither one of those are married. They're still out in Iowa. So after our 50th anniversary, and then the grandchildren, the great grandbaby, that's been one of the highlights of my life.
Sue, thank you for sharing that wonderful journey. It is a great journey. The Bowen Clements life story is just fabulous. I just enjoyed so much hearing about that.
Thank you.
There is, however, one more fact that I'd like you to share with us. You are very close to another Polk Pioneer. Tell us about that.
My mom. Yes, my mom, Elna Cumbie Bowen, was Pioneer of the Year and was one of Polk County's pioneers in 2019.
That's great.
So wanted to be sure and let you know about that. So yes, it's been a wonderful life. I can't explain. It's just been a wonderful life. I couldn't have asked for more.
And you're still playing the organ. I love that.
Yes,
You're still the musician.
I'll be playing Easter Sunday for us. So, yeah, still enjoying my music, and that's helping me get through, you know.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you all again for joining this session of the Polk Pioneer Oral History Program.